Good morning. Well, it's morning while I'm recording this, so I don't know what time it is for you. I'm gonna go over here and shut my door real quick. Be right back. I'm the only one awake in the house, so I don't want to wake anyone up by talking too much or too loud because, I might tend to get a little excited about the topic. So I might get a little loud. So we're going to talk today about character. And I'm excited about this lecture. So there are several things that I want to go over, things I want to pull out from the reading. I have no idea how long this is actually going to be. So I guess we will just find out. So I'm going to share the screen and pull up the PowerPoint. We're going to do, don't look, don't look, don't look. I don't know why I didn't fix that before I opened it up. Don't look, don't look, don't look, right? So we're going to talk today about characters and how to create a memorable character. So personally, I think this guy is a character. If you don't know already, that's my husband. But I mean, you look at him and he just screams, make a character out of me, right? All the tattoos, everything. Yeah, he just absolutely screams, make a character out of me. And I love this picture. This is from last weekend. We went to the lake. So anyway, moving on. Stephen King, page 146 in our text this week, he said, "You cannot hope to sweep someone else away by the force of your writing until it has been done to you." And that goes along with another thing that you're going to read in the text this week, where he talks about, in order to be a better writer, you have to read. You have to be a reader. You've got to be experiencing other writers and other styles and incorporate things into your own. And a portion of the text this week you're reading, he talks about that. So this particular quote is on 146, and I happen to think it's quite beautiful. "You cannot hope to sweep someone else away by the force of your writing until it has been done to you." Have you had someone sweep you away by the force of their writing? Oh, it happens to me. Even when I'm reading essays, sometimes there are moments where I just push myself away from the computer and I go, wow, that's beautiful. There's a lyric in our song. Well, one of our songs. We have a couple, 2 or 3 songs that are our songs. But this one in particular, it's by Shinedown. And in the lyric, he talks about how he takes the pictures off the wall and wraps them in newspaper blankets. Oh my gosh. That description, every time I hear those words, I'm blown away by them. Every time. Newspaper blankets. Oh, I know what that is. Right, I've wrapped up special Christmas ornaments that way my entire life, in newspaper blankets. But the force of that writing is beautiful, and I want to strive to create those same types of putting this adjective with this noun and just creating this musical thing is intensely exciting, I think. So Stephen King goes on to talk about, he read something written by a guy one time, and he used the word zestful like 5 times in 2 paragraphs, right? This zestful lust for life, or the zestful this or the zestful that. And he was just like, whoa, no thanks. So word choices are very important. We want to always be thinking about that. And then it kind of jumped into my head that we need to be paying attention to how often we use particular words. And there are words that we will use on a repetitive basis and we don't realize that we're doing it. And there's a way to check for that. And it's kind of a fun way. So I want to show you this little trick today. So once you've completed a chapter, or once you've completed a manuscript, I would say do it with every chapter. But you can go to a word cloud generator online. And what I did was I went to this one where I've given you the link right here. So it's monkeylearn.com word cloud. And I took the entire manuscript for A Kiss in the Rain, and I plopped it into the word generator to see what would happen. And here is what happened. This is what it gave me. So the largest words are the ones that you use the most. So obviously, when you look at this, for the most part, I would say that I do a fairly decent job of not overusing any one particular word, because there aren't any that are just like giant taking over. And you will find that if there are particular words that you use way more than you realize you do, they're going to be really large in this picture. So my largest one is Danielle. And you can see that over here on the right, it says I used it, what, 484 times. Oh, that might be excessive. So that's something that honestly now I'm thinking maybe I should go back in and see if I'm using her name too often. Maybe there don't need to be so many times where it says Danielle said as opposed to she said. If the she then would be modifying the correct person and not one of the other characters. That might be something to revisit, something to consider, because those are the kind of things that can pull your reader out. But if you take a look at the rest of this, these are the words that I tend to use the most. And you read them and you're like, wow, what's that story about? That sounds like, you know, a woman's story. Well, it kind of is. So anyway, and I'm not sure if it took the actual entire text of the novel, but I did upload the entire novel because it makes me wonder, did I really say the word face that many times? And the word I is used 100 times? I guess I really focus on eyes, right? And I said Adeline 151 times. So I was trying to scroll through over here. It's not going to work, is it? Because this is a PowerPoint slide. So anyway, this is just a fun thing for you to do. I suggest doing it, and it is a practice that I had forgotten about. I'll be honest with you, I had forgotten about this practice. I knew this years ago. And so it's something that I'm going to begin to institute again, just to make sure that I'm not way overusing words that are going to make my writing inefficient. So we want it to be exciting. We want it to not draw a reader out. So yeah, I used the word Danielle 484 times. Might be excessive, especially when you consider in the last 4 or 5 chapters, she's going by a different name. So, and that one didn't even make the list. So it's probably a little excessive, something that I need to look at. Nothing that's written is ever perfect, just so you know. It can always be edited. All right. So the reading and on writing this week is pages 139 to 189. And the gist of what you're going to hear Stephen King talking about in the text would be he's going to address narration. He's going to address description, which obviously he has a thing or 5 or a million to say about description, right? He's a very descriptive writer. Dialogue, he's going to talk about dialogue, things that you're going to read in the book. You need to pay very close attention to when it comes to what he says about dialogue. And then I had you stop reading at 189, but I think you should go ahead and continue reading to 195, because there he's going to mention some things about character. And these are important. And then the whole gist of this entire section of reading is you need to be reading and you need to emulate the writers that you admire. So be reading and be thinking about what worked in this writing or what worked in that writing, and begin to try to work with some of those things yourself, not losing your own voice, of course, but understanding some stylistic choices or some tricks perhaps that another writer has used that works really well. And you will continue to grow and expand your own ability to communicate your ideas. So this is what Stephen King is getting across here in these pages. So really it's 139 to 195 is what you should be reading, but there won't be any questions this week in the quiz from that 189 to 195 section. Those will probably be in next week, but I inadvertently, I guess I just didn't realize that that little bit there following 189 was about character, and that needed to be involved in this week. So once you have seen this lecture, then go ahead and read those few extra pages, because there's good information there. And I don't want to give it all away in the lecture, because I don't want you to be able to go, oh, well, I watched the lecture, I don't need to do the reading. No, it's Stephen King's words. Please listen to him. Now I am going to go over the Chuck Wendig article, but that's a different beast. In the Structuring Your Novel textbook, in your reading for this week, I found this section and I wanted to pull it out and go over this quickly. These are questions that your readers should not have to ask when they are reading your novel. They should never, in the midst of your novel, especially after the first 25% of your book is passed, they should never have to ask any of these things. What is the character's name? How old is the person? What does the person look like? Who is this person? Where is the scene taking place? What year, season, day is it? Who is this character interacting with? What is the narrator's relationship to the characters? And what is the character trying to accomplish in the scene? Why should I care about any of this? It seems like a lot of things to be keeping in consideration when you're writing your characters, but I don't want you to focus on these. I want you to be aware of these. In the first quarter of your book, all of this should be taken care of. And we don't want to start our book necessarily like in the winter. No, but you can talk about the snow, right? You can talk about the chill in the air, the frozen water dripping, or the frozen water. No, it's not frozen water, that's ice, but the ice that's turning to liquid. Right now my brain is like, oh, but there are things that you could talk about, make it visual so that your reader knows that it's winter and you don't have to use the word winter. You could even hint that it's around Christmas time or Valentine's Day or the nothingness of January, right? The nothingness of the first month of the year. You could talk about those different things. So just be aware of these. The reader should never get to the end of the first quarter of the book and be asking any of these questions. Those should all be addressed creatively. To prologue or not to prologue, the book also talks about this. And I like in there that it says, don't hold your reader's hand. Jump right into what it is you have to say. You can totally skip a prologue. A prologue is like you, the writer, saying, okay, well, you're not going to be smart enough to figure out what I'm about to write about, so I'm going to give you a little bit of information to get you going. Why not just jump right into the story and be crafty enough or creative enough to give them all of that information as the first quarter of the book rolls out? Or prologue, it's up to you. But read the text there and see what they have to say about the prologue there in Structuring Your Novel. Also, in this section, talks about dream sequences, flash forwards, and backstory. These are all devices / techniques that you can use when you are writing. They definitely add to your word count. So honestly, if you're struggling with word count, they're not a bad idea, but they are a bad idea if they do not work in service of your story. If they're just tossed in there and the story could exist completely without them, they don't need to be there. So you want to take those out. right? And you want to ask yourself, is this me telling or is this me showing? In my book, For Love of Words, which I have to work on getting back out, there is a dream sequence. But because the book is about Native American storytelling and oral traditions, the dream sequence, when it happens, it comes to the young woman who discovers that she is a storyteller. And so this dream, which she realizes and accepts this is who she is, this dream sequence then happens. It like the spirit comes to her and she has this vision basically. And so it's a good 8-9 pages of dream sequence. I've been told it fits. I personally, as a writer, think it fits, but I've been told by readers that it works. So you have to find out, does it work in service of the story, or is it just superfluous? Is it just taking up space? Is it just getting you to whatever word count you had set aside? And if it's removed, the story still stands. So with either any of these dream sequences, flash forwards, or backstory, you need to be asking that question. Is it essential? Does it need to be there? There are times when it does. And you can, with backstory especially, you can stick it into dialogue. So like the characters are talking and they can say, you remember when, and retell a little story just like we do in real conversations. So you don't have to work that into text. You can work it into dialogue and it flows better if it's not clunky and out of place. So just like you would normally do in conversation with another person, you know, you tend to, we all tend to. Back in my day, right? I do it all the time. Now that I'm going to be 49 years old, I do it all the time. 19 days is my birthday, just saying. So that's the information that I have to share with you there, but there'll be more for you in the text, so please read that. Introducing characters. So here we are, we're in the Structuring Your Novel book still. And it says your first act. The first act of any novel should be the first 20 to 25% of your story. And it's in that space that we introduce our characters. And in that space, the text says, get under your character's skin. Oh, what does that mean? Well, Chuck Wendig's going to help us with that here in just a few minutes. So you want to be making notes before you get started writing. You want to be like writing down ideas and keeping, maybe not even necessarily a notebook, because Stephen King is going to make fun of people that keep a writer's notebook, but maybe that works for you. It's not what he does. He builds it in his head, but then the same man will go and write ideas on napkins. So he got the idea for Misery while he was on a flight to London and he wrote it on a napkin. So don't always listen to every piece of advice that someone gives you, because we all tend to do what we need to do in the moment, right? I personally think it's a good idea to flesh your characters out before you get started writing them. Make notes on paper, chart them out, map them out, give them quirks, right? Know exactly what they look like, get them ready, and then start writing. The size of your cast. The size of the cast of your novel is really going to depend upon your skill level. That may be something initially you want to start out with just a few characters, but perhaps you have the capacity to wind together multiple storylines without losing track of any of them. With A Kiss in the Rain, I've been told by many people that they want to see novels about at least 3 or 4 of the other characters. And I'm like, for me, they're just like part of the backstory, but apparently they're interesting. Whatever. I haven't gotten to that place yet. None of those characters is telling me their stories. But so when you're dealing with size of cast, you really have to stop and consider, am I going to confuse my reader? If I'm going to confuse my reader, if this is just too big, then hold on to it and keep it tighter. And then realize too that there are some things you may just not be ready for. Stephen King has said, and I don't know if it's in the text of our book or if I saw it in a video. I know I've seen it in a video of him giving a lecture, but he said that he wrote The Stand. He started writing The Stand 20 years before he actually wrote it. The idea came to him and he started writing it, and he got a couple of chapters in and realized it was too big for him. He realized, Stephen King realized the idea was too big for him. And so he put it away. He shelved it. He didn't even try because he realized his own limits, his own limitation, and he realized there was a lot more he needed to learn and grow through. So he shelved it until he was ready to handle the idea. Then he pulled it out and he wrote it. Thus we have The Stand. So be honest about what you're ready for. And so I'm saying that stemming off of cast size, because you don't want to jump into really busy waters if that's not the place that you're ready to swim in. So you might want to keep it a little bit more on the shallow side, not shallow in content, but shallow in character. Keep it more focused, like, like he did with Misery, right? We've got Annie Wilkes and we have Paul. So 2 main characters. Does each character have a purpose? That's another thing to ask. And always, always, always keep your characters' details straight when you are writing a story. You don't want them to become confusing to the reader. So all of that information is there in the Structuring Your Novel textbook. Again, I don't want to give it all away. I want you to do the reading so that you can effectively answer the questions on the quiz. So here we are. I'm going to jump into this week's Chuck Wendig article. I'm excited about it. I read through it and I was like, what? So we're gonna jump into this. I thoroughly enjoy every single article that I'm giving you this semester from him. He is fascinating to me and I love his blunt nature. I love how he just says everything, just says what he thinks, right? And he just keeps on rolling and without questioning whether or not it's offensive. And I like that about him, but I'm going to always question whether or not something is offensive because that's me and that's how I function. But here we go. So the first thing he says here is you've got to make sure that your character has personality. He says, because some characters read like cardboard, they're like white crayon on white paper. Sure, the characters run around and they do stuff and say stuff, but none of it has anything to do with character and has everything to do with plot, as if the characters are just another mechanism to get to the next action sequence, the next plot point, the next fraza, waza, waza, buzza, whatever. The point is your character needs a personality and the rest of this list should help you get there. So your characters have to be somebody, right? They got to have life to them, things. And I want to get ahead of the article. So agency, he says, the character should run an advertising agency, is handed a note. I mean, the character should belong to the FBI and gets another note. My goodness, with the notes, people. But fine, yes, okay, I get it now. Agency means that the character is active, not passive. The character makes decisions and is attempting to control her own destiny as an independent or operator within the story. She is not a leaf in the stream, but rather the rock that breaks the river. Receives one more note. Oh, thank you. What a wonderful note. I do agree my beard is sexy. Yes, I know. So rich, so full, so shiny. I oil it with secretions from squeezed ermine scent glands, which also lend it that musky zing that sort of crawls up your nose. I think he could absolutely be my best friend. Number 3, motivation. Your characters have to have motivation. They want things. They need things. They're motivated by these desires and requirements, and they spend an entire story trying to fulfill them. That's one of the base level components of a story. A character acts in service to his motivations, but obstacles stand in the way. And frequently these are other characters. We need to know what impels a character, what her motives are. If we don't know or cannot parse those motivations, her role in the story is alien to us. Why is the character there? What does the character care about? What is important to them? Why must they dig out this idea? What's going on? Got to find that. Fear. Everybody's afraid of something: death, taxes, bees, dogs, love, carnival workers. He said, ocelots. I'm afraid of the number 34 and the color puce. I don't even know what puce is. Makes me want to look it up. Characters suffer from their own personal fears relevant to the story at hand. Characters without fear are basically robots who use their pneumatic doom claws to puncture any sense of engagement and belief we have in the story created. The great thing about being a storyteller isn't just giving characters fear, it's ensuring that their fears will arise and be present in the tale at hand. You, the writer, shall be cruel. This cruelty shall be great fun and a veritable giggle fest, because storytellers are that word. Stephen King says, sometimes you have to kill your darlings. And, you know, kill in the sense, well, I mean, maybe you kill them off, or kill, you just have really awful things happen to them, because isn't that the point of a story? Here's your characters, they're tripping along, blah, 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 and then something happens. And it's about how your characters deal with that situation. And so because of that, many times you need to give them fear to make this story real and to make it something your reader is going to care about. Internal conflict. I love this one. I'm in love with Steve, but I also love my job as a diplomat to the raccoon people of the Hollow Earth. But Steve is allergic to raccoons, but I may be the only person who can stop the raccoon people from invading Canada. By the gods, what shall I do? Great characters suffer from internal conflict. So you got to be in their heads, right? You got to be having them go back and forth. What do I do? How do I address this? How do I feel? They don't know what they want or how to get all the things they want. Position your characters between the Scylla and the Charybdis of hard choices, choices that compete with one another. Giving characters these emotional, intellectual, soul-testing conundrums is sweet meat for the audience, the meat of conflict, the meat of drama. Further, it allows us to relate to these characters, as we all have to make hard choices, and gives us a reason to keep reading, because we want to know the characters' choices in the face of these inner conflicts. Inner conflict. They have to have it. At least your main character, if you're writing in first person or in third person limited, they've got to have internal conflict. Now, if you're going to do third person omniscient, where you are in multiple characters' heads, this can get a little tricky. So you're going to give George internal conflict, and you're going to give Sally internal conflict, and maybe you're giving Mabel internal conflict. Then you as the writer have to keep all that straight, and you have to be able to make sure your reader does not get confused. So again, it's one of those things. Are you ready to jump into those deep waters? Or are we going to keep this on a more simple side as you venture out into the world of writing? External conflict. Hey, external conflict is pretty cool too. If the character is plagued by an old war wound, a damaged spaceship, a mysterious old villain who shows up to perform surgical karate on the character, all good. Doubly good if the external conflict matches or speaks to the internal conflict in some way. Say, for instance, an author who is addicted to slathering his beard with illicit ermine scent glands is also pursued by a very angry ermine scent gland dealer named Vito, who would apparently like his money. Just an example with no basis in reality. Runs. You have to have external conflict in your story for it to even be a story. I mean, my goodness, he just wrote a story there in like one sentence. It cracks me up. All right, connections to other characters. That lone wolf Ronin without clan stuff gets tiresome pretty quick. Characters need connections to other characters. These don't need to be desired connections. They can be connections that the character is actively trying to deny, but they need to be there. They help make the character who she is and continue to push and pull on her as the story unfolds. Friends, family, acquaintances, work buddies, foes, neighbors, drug dealers, enslaved Pokemon, sentient snow globes, sex androids, microscopic beard civilizations, you know, the usual. Your characters have to have connections with other characters, whether they're actually like major plot points or not. They have to have interactions with other characters in order for it to truly effectively work. Now, I will tell you, there is one episode of Doctor Who. Yes, I like Doctor Who. So one episode of the Peter Capaldi episodes where he is the only character in the entire episode, and turns out he is stuck in his own nightmare where he in a loop faces the same thing over and over, and it's the internal conflict that takes him billions of years to resolve inside of himself, so that he finally learns enough in this over and over and over internal battle with himself. There's some external conflict too, but that's like the only situation that I can think of where the character fully existed on his own, and it was brilliantly written. But characters need connections, right? And maybe in that episode, though, you could state that it was his lack of connections that were driving him so crazy. That's an interesting thought. It's a beautiful episode, beautifully written. So anyway, connections. Connections are important, even if they're odd. Connections to us, the audience. We respond well to those characters who contain a little bit of us. We want to relate to them. The best characters are a broken mirror. We want to see ourselves reflected back, if in a distorted, unexpected way. We want to connect with them using that weird empathetic psychic tendon where we tie together our shared traits or universal life experiences, like those humanoid blue goat cat mothers from Avatar. Young adult fiction is written with teenage protagonists experiencing teenage protagonist problems because it's written for that audience. And it's why adults can still read those books comfortably, because adults remember being teenagers. The reader wants a new story, but she wants an old story too, her own. So our characters need to be a reflection of real people. Absolutely. They need to be a reflection of real people so that your reader can relate to them. Yes, I know what this movie is. It's terrifying. If you haven't seen it, I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's there's 3 movies in the series. One is Glass, and that's the one about Samuel Jackson. I forget what this one's called, but it was terrifying. This guy has 23 different personalities. James McAvoy plays him. It's brilliantly done. He is a masterful actor. Brilliant, brilliant story. Characters need nuance and complexity. Oh, I didn't catch this dirty word. Stuffy one-note characters are a Taco Bell product, manufactured unfrozen gray meat red sauce and a proportioned somewhat maybe kind of tortilla. They're good for a quick bite and a hard purge. Remember, you do not buy Taco Bell, you rent Taco Bell and then return it to its ecosystem with a couple of flushes. Great characters are a nuanced meal, from an aperitif to the amuse-bouche to the first and second course, all the way through to the monkey course and the molecular gastronomy course to coffee, dessert, and then ritual suicide. Each bite has complexity, Like sipping a fine wine or a great cup of coffee, you taste things that aren't expected, that go beyond the word coffee or wine. I taste figs and fireplace ash, and a little after hint of the tears from a grief-struck slow loris. A good character is complex because that means they are like real people who were not easily summed up or predicted, real people with layers and surprises, and who are a little bit good and a little bit bad and a whole lot of interesting. Ooh, and this just reminds me of, we just read A Good Man is Hard to Find in my Comp 2 classes. And the whole idea here is that all people are flawed. They are. And it's a hard story to read. And at the end of it, before I give the explanation of its meaning to the students, they all tend to be like, why did you read that to us? Ugh, that was a terrible story. Because the characters are horrible. They're horrible. But they're also a reflection of real people. And so once you then dig into the actual meaning of the story and you get to Flannery O'Connor's intended meaning, you have this like epiphany of, oh my God, they're all real people. We're all a little bit good. We're all a little bit bad. We're all a whole lot of interesting. Let your characters be real and raw, and then people will want to read them. Strengths: to be good at something. Characters who have absolutely zero mad skills are dull as a sack of frozen poached hippo meat. We like to read about characters who are good at something. I'll be the best darn werewolf veterinarian you ever did see. You need a speech pathologist for velociraptors, then you need me. I'm a cop who is also a robot, and they call me Officer Bot. Wait, that doesn't sound cool. You want characters who are capable and even exceptional. Sherlock isn't a mediocre detective. Buffy isn't just some half-ass vampire puncher. She's the gosh darn slayer. Ranger Rick isn't just some fishing raccoon man. Probably most of you are like, who is Ranger Rick? It was a magazine when I was a little girl that I used to get at home. Where this little character, Ranger Rick, he taught you all good things to do. This doesn't have to be limited to actual skills or talents. Mind. A character's strength can be internal, it can be intellectual or emotional, or it can be that she can knock a dude's head off his shoulders with one fast punch. But your character's got to be good at something. We're all good at something. And you might be sitting there saying, I'm not good at anything. Bull honky. You just haven't taken the time to get to know yourself. Guaranteed, I'm right. We're all good at something. And hopefully that little bit of whatever we did last week, right? The getting to know yourself a little bit kind of gave you a little bit of a look into who you are. Those questions came from, I'm going to show you, those questions came from this. So this is 2,000 questions about me. So you want to get to know yourself? I picked this up at the Five Below store. They have other books like this too, but it's just kind of fun to dig into you and find out why you do the things that you do. Right? What is it that you really enjoy? What are you gifted at? What are you skilled at? Like guaranteed, some of you are out there, you're feeling kind of timid. You need to take some time and get to know yourself. Go on a retreat with yourself. Talk to yourself. Ask yourself some hard questions. Dig in. Because it's there. You got to be willing to find it. And then we need to write characters who are good at something. Also, need to give your characters flaws. They need to be bad at something. Sherlock is an amazing detective, but he's a terrible human being. In some of the depictions of him, he is a drug addict. Buffy is a bona fide badass, but she's also a glib, impulsive teenage girl. Hence this picture, right, with the lollipop. Ranger Rick, the raccoon, can ranger like a mother fisher. Oh, I didn't catch that one either. But he's also got a bad addiction to meow meow and a penchant for losing all his ranger paycheck at the Indian casino. What? That's news about Ranger Rick. Now all of a sudden he's much more interesting. Characters can be good at things, but they can't be too good. You need balance. If they're the best at something, they should also be the worst at something. Conflict lives here. The space between Sherlock being the best detective and the worst human is so taut with tension that a potential story might snap and take someone's eye out. Plus, on a practical level, someone who is good at everything and bad at nothing is boring and unbelievable. Just like, that's like, remember back in high school days, and there was like, the all-American quarterback, right? Oh, please, he wasn't that awesome. Guaranteed major skeletons in the closet. Every character needs a voice. I don't mean this in a literal sense. No deaf mutes. Mutes allowed. He's not meaning that. I mean that your character has to sound like your character, a unique voice, a combination of how she speaks and what she says when she does. When you write her dialogue, we should have no doubt who is speaking, even if the dialogue tags were eaten by some kind of bibliovore creature. What kind of things does she say? Why does she say them? What does she sound like? Does her way of speaking reflect where she grew up or reflect her trying to get away from where she grew up? Is her mother's voice in there somewhere? Her father's? Is she brash and bold or hesitant, reserved? How do all these things reflect who she actually is? Dialogue is such a tool for you as a writer. In dialogue, you can get so much of who your character is across. You can give her tone. You can give her personality. You can inject her fears all into the conversation. It's beautiful. It's absolutely exciting. Dialogue is fun. Fun. You need to use it. Dialogue is so great if it's good. A look. All characters need a look, right? Put me in the camp where characters should look like someone or something. Some writing advice suggests that an author let her characters act as physical ciphers, zero description, so that, geez, I don't know, we can all imprint upon them or imagine them as whoever we want them to be. He says, fish that stuff. I'm not saying we need to hear about every chipped fingernail, eyelash, or skin tag. Please don't write about all the skin tags. But pick a few stark details and make the character stand out. And let those details reveal to us something about the character too. The perfect suit with the dirty shoes. The hair buzzed so flat you could land a chopper on top of it. The rime of blood under his nails. Whatever. What's the character's look and what can it tell us about him? You've got to give your character something unique about their look so that they stand out, so that they're memorable, so that their hair reaches the ceiling in order to make them attractive. Hello, 1980s, I miss you. I still somewhat do the sweep right here, but back in the day, my hair would have come up to here. High school. Aquanet. Oh yeah, we were pretty. We were really pretty. Emotions. A character without emotion is a soulless automaton. They don't need to reveal those emotions to the world around them, but they should reveal them to you as the author and to the reader as well. Characters feel things. They feel sorrow and shame and bliss. They feel itchy. Oh, have you ever thought about making a character itchy? That's hilarious. Try writing that out. You've been itchy, right? You've had like mosquitoes attack you and then had to deal with the outcome. Chiggers, like a vampire chiggers attacking you while you're camping. You know what that itchy feels like. Have you ever tried writing that out? Hilarious. So itchy, hungry, confused, and so angry they could crumple a vending machine like it's a can of soda. They run the gamut like, oh, I don't know, real people. And the thing is, you can use these emotional responses to highlight for us who the characters are. They encounter something that should make them happy, but it makes them sad instead. That's a telling moment for a character. Why does this thing that would make everyone else happy make him want to cry and punch a cabinet instead? Why? Ooh, emotions are important. Dig in, let your characters be emotional. Mysteries. Questions drive narrative. We continue reading sometimes just to answer questions. Who killed Mrs. Penny Tickle? Who stole the Shih Tzu of darkness, and for what nefarious purpose? What happens next? The audience is driven in part by the need to answer mysteries. The thing is, the audience and the characters have a kind of narrative quantum entanglement. The same things that draw us through a story are the same things that urge a character forward too. We want to solve the murder, same as the cantankerous detective does. Give the character questions that are unanswered, variables in her equation that she is driven to complete. Let there be mystery. Let there be secrets. It goes the other way too. Just as a character has questions, he also has answers. Answers that he never wants to share with anyone. Answers that would be otherwise known as secrets. Heroic secrets, dark secrets, sexy secrets, weird secrets, underpants secrets. The character knows things that he doesn't want revealed, creating complexity for the character and tension for the reader. Oh, this one I'm skipping. You can read it for yourself. Characters need the ability to surprise. The moment a character loses the ability to surprise us, they might as well be a dead body floating down a slow-moving river. That's not to say a character should be unpredictable on every page. I killed a man. Now I'm starting a churro shop. Now I own a parrot. Now I'm going to eat the parrot and jump into this howling chasm and die. Eee! But a character should always be able to still do something that makes us double take and pump our fists in triumph or drop our jaws in shock. And it's not just about action either. It's about showing surprising depths of emotion or cleverness or capability. It's about the character being so much more than when we expect or what we expect, a secret forest hidden beneath the cloud cover. Consistency. And yet at the same time, those surprises shouldn't also come out of left field either. Think of it like the reveal of a murderer in a murder mystery story. You want that murderer to be revealed in a way where the story outsmarted you, and yet it still makes sense, right? You don't want it to be, oh, and the murderer was actually Dr. Pietro Donwick, the pharmacologist who you never met or heard of and are just meeting now, and this is basically the narrative equivalent of rocks fall, everybody dies. Characters are that way too. When they reveal something about themselves or surprise us, it should be a thing that has us nodding our head, not scratching it like a confused chimp. We should be saying, wow, not what? Don't just drop in that character that is the bad guy at the end. It's got to be somebody that they know. And you get to that point, you're trying to figure it out, and you get to the point, you go, what? Oh my gosh, what? Not what, right? Okay, small quirks. I'm not saying every character needs to be a variant of Zooey Deschanel. Besides, she is the quirkiest little quirk that ever did quirk, and you cannot beat her at her own game. She eats tomato soup in the rain with 4 baby goats all named Oliver. Whatever. Quirks can be an amateurish way of giving your character depth, in part because it's artifice that doesn't create any depth at all. Still, while quirks are no substitute for actual character traits, they are useful in small doses when A, letting the character stand out in our mind, and B, lending some depth of character through a seemingly shallow expression. A character who always fidgets with, say, a coin or a pen or a pair of dice may seem like a one-off blah blah detail, but later it can be revealed that this single simple act is bound up to some tragic event in the character's life. My mother was killed by a pair of dice. Okay, maybe not that, but you get the idea. History. Your character didn't just come karate punching her way out of some storytelling womb. She wasn't born pale and featureless like a grub, only to grow her wings and limbs halfway through the tale. The character's been around. Whether she's 17 or 70, she has history, she has life, stories, things that happened to her and things that she did first kiss, first breakup, first sexual experience, first drunk, first hangover, first AA meeting, first space flight. That time Billy Grossbeck tried to grab her and she broke his nose. The other time she got fired from her coffee house counter monkey job for spitting in some chode's caramel macchiato. That time she did the thing with the girl at that place. What we see of a character in a story is just the tippy top of the iceberg, just poking out of the water while the rest of the body remains submerged. Don't let your characters be tabula rasa, some blank slate devoid of history. And this is again why you need to build your characters before you start writing. You've got to know where they're coming from, what they've experienced. It's like you almost have to build an entire person just from your head, just so you can get started. You tell about them, and then you throw things at them. Like all of a sudden, the building is falling. What do? You know who this person is. Now they have a building falling. How do they react? And why? Based off of what? Right? The history. The right name. This may seem a shallow point, but boy, does a character's name matter. You don't just pick it out of a hat. It has to be the right name, in the same way that you want the right name for a child or a dog or that mole on your inner thigh. Mine is Benedict Arnold. Like Bob Stevens is not the name of a steampunk secret agent, or maybe it should be. I don't know. I don't know that I agree with him there. Miss Permelia Gracie Feather is not the name of a motel maid from Tucson. You've got to find the right name, and also of importance, a name that doesn't sound like the name of another character in your book. You don't want readers confused, nor do you want them conjuring a character from a whole other book or movie when reading yours. So you need to make sure that you're using effective names. If you've read The Lottery by Shirley Jackson, you'll find out, if you do research into Shirley Jackson and the why she wrote the story and the techniques that she used when she wrote the story, all of the characters' names have meaning. They say something about who the character is. It's very interesting. It's a nice element to learn after you've read the story, and then you go back and you look at it and you have these, oh, kind of moments. It's really fascinating. I enjoy that very much. But you want to make sure that the names don't all sound the same, right? Or, that they're very distinct and that they're a name that's going to stand out, like Rumpelstiltskin. You guys are probably wondering, some of you are wondering, who is that, right? That's Rumpelstiltskin. I love him. I love Rumpelstiltskin. So moving forward. Room to grow. Characters grow and change. Okay, fine. Not all of them do. And in certain modes of storytelling, a stagnant, flatlining character's arc is sadly a feature and not a bug. But just the same, the most interesting characters are the ones who at least have the capability of change, who are part of an unfulfilled arc that is unseen but keenly felt. Readers want to go on that journey with the character. They want to go along for the ride. Breakups and marriages and babies and revenge and redemption and resurrection. Some animals grow only as big as their cages, right? So give your character room to move around, yeah? Give them a scope, envision for them an incomplete arc. Hello, Harry Potter. Room to grow. Livability. I'm fond of saying that what matters about a character isn't that we like them, but that we can live with them. Meaning, if we're going to be hunkering down with that character for 400 pages of a book, or 2 hours of a movie, or a year's worth of comic books, that character has to be someone we are willing and able to spend time with. They don't have to be our pal. We're not asking them for a ride to the airport or help moving into our new apartment. They have to be someone we can and want to spend our time with in the narrative sense. How do you accomplish this? Well, and then he's ... I do want to say to you that this painting is of a character in one of Chuck Wendig's books. This is a painting of Miriam Black, the main character. And I know I mentioned in another lecture that I'm in the middle of reading that series. It's a series of 5 books. It's called Blackbirds. I still, in book 3, don't know if I like her. Like, I like her, but I don't like her. Like, I love her. I want to take care of her, but at the same time, you are repulsive. Like, ew. So I guess it's kind of like this motherly kind of feeling that I have for her. And so it keeps me reading. She keeps me reading. She's alive. I literally woke up this morning thinking about her. I did. I woke up thinking about Miriam Black this morning. It's true. She's in my head. She's a good character. She's written well. Maybe she's not a good character. She's bad, but then she's good because you get that internal conflict that he's talking about. And so part of you loves her, part of you hates her, and you're just so torn. Like you want her to get caught, but at the same time, escape, girl, run, run. So, good character. Gravity. You do this by giving them gravity, making them as big and as interesting as can be so that they draw us to them, like moths to a flame, like meteors to the earth, like cat hair to a new sweater. The greatest crime you can commit against your character and your reader is to make them boring. I think that's why I love Loki too, because Loki's an anti-hero. I love anti-heroes. It's like when you've got either the dull character or the bad character, and they're put in a situation where they have to do the right thing or they have to do the good thing, and they're like, no, I don't want to, but dang it, okay, I will. Love that, because then you see a character grow. I love that, because I'm of the opinion that all people are flawed and we all have the capacity for good. So, and it's in that, learning that for yourself, that you grow as a person. Next one. You, he says. What does the character need? They need you. You're the champion here. You are the mother fishing engine of creation that will bring this character to life with the eye-watering, boozy muse breath of your drunken imagination. You are a very special ingredient indeed, young captain. See that the idea goes that no story is original, and maybe that translates to character too, but you are an original, and the way you do things, the way you arrange old elements of story and character is something wholly your own, provided you let yourself off the leash, y'all. Let yourself off the leash. Let your mind wander. Let it do great, crazy things, provided you're willing to smear your guts all over the page. Remember, bleed on the page. You can bring something fishing amazing to every character that you write, and that's yourself. The character doesn't exist without you. You are the puppeteer. You are parent and deity. So go create, give them life, give them a soul, give them character, and then kick their ass. Good stuff. Thanks, Chuck Wendig. We enjoy your articles. So that's all great, Mrs. C. But how do I get started? Right? Any of you have that question? Of course you do. Funny that you asked. I have ideas. Ideas can come from anywhere and anything. For instance, I came across this little note one time. It says, with Nellie, his other girl. Isn't she ugly? Written by guess who? Okay, so the gentleman in the picture behind the sign that says Dr. Hinkle, that's my grandpa, with the girlfriend that he had before he met my grandmother, who is in the circle or in the oval down below. So he was engaged to Nellie when he met Thelma, right? And so then was no longer engaged to Nellie and married Thelma. Drama in 1936 or 37. Drama. I love it. And I'm going to show you this. This is my most prized possession. This is my grandmother's engagement ring that he bought for her in 1938. That's when they got married, was in 38. Married for many, many, many years. He died in 1982 when I was 10. And grandma, we lost her in 2012. And my uncles divvied up all of her jewelry, and I was given the my uncles and my dad, and I was given the engagement ring. But this could be a story, right? Just these three people right here. Inspiration can come from anything. I could write a heck of a story because there was some drama going on. We like to think about people in the past as like having no drama and they lived in the perfect little world and they had perfect little lives and everything went just so. Oh, no, no, no. That is not the case. These people did crazy things. He was engaged to Nellie when he met Thelma. I mean, I'm glad he met and married Thelma because then you have me. However, Don Hinkle. So there's a story there, right? Write it. How about this? All of these pictures that I'm about to share with you are pictures that I took. Okay, I found all of these on my phone. I was driving in what many would consider the hood in St. Louis one day. We were on our way to church and we went to a church in the city. And I just took a random picture. I love to take, I'm an amateur photographer, so I love to take especially urban decay photography. And I took a picture of this building that was just like crumbling and shut up, completely locked up, completely crumbling. And it wasn't until later that I expanded the picture because I noticed something white under the for sale sign. I expanded the picture and almost jumped back. I did not expect to see a woman's face. So, inspiration. Who is she? Why is she in there? Is she a ghost? Is she a real person? Is she homeless? What's her story? Write it. Motorcycle rally, right? This could go so many places. So many places. So just be looking for inspiration all around you, everywhere that you go. I don't know what to write about. Just go sit somewhere and watch people. Oh, that's our assignment. I'm giving it away. This can be a story. I mean, maybe. Actually, it's just kind of a fun picture of my son that I found. He was doing flips and I just happened to catch him just like this. But this could become a story, an alien story where the kid was like taken up into space and then the aliens decided they didn't want him. He's a reject. So they dropped him back to the ground. That's not nice, Mom. He's okay, really. He did not land on his head. It does look like he's going to land on his head. He didn't land on his head. But in the story, he could. Now, this is one that I took from a parking garage in downtown St. Louis. I was on the 5th floor and I was looking across and just taking pictures, just random pictures. And I noticed this person sitting at their desk. And I thought, how fascinating. And so I took the picture and what a story you could tell here. That could literally become anything. You could plant eyes off to the right in the dark window that are coming in there with nefarious purpose. There's so many things that you could do here. Inspiration. I love this truck. My very first vehicle was a truck that looked just like that. But it sits out. It's in the neighborhood near where my best friend lives, and it just sits there. No one touches it. It's been sitting there for years, untouched. And I want to know why. I want to know the story behind it. What's going on with this truck? Why is no one touching it? Was it involved in an accident? Did it have a nefarious purpose? What's going on? Why is it there? Why does no one use it? Did the person die? Does the story then become about the character who once owned this truck and no one can bring themselves to drive it now? I want to know. I was driving down the road one day. This is down 51st Street. This is at 51st and Mingo. Is that Mingo or is it Garnett? It's Garnett. It's 51st and Garnett. I'm looking at the street sign. It's 51st and Garnett. And guys, there was a hole in the sky. Clouds everywhere, hole in the sky. I was flipping out. Took a whole lot of pictures of it. A lot of people did. People were posting pictures of it all over Instagram. It was just like, what is happening in Tulsa? Alien invasion. Here's your catalyst. The sky opened. The ship came down. Like, go with it, right? Freaky, freaky night sky. It really was. Santa Claus rides a motorcycle. Did you not know that? Santa Claus is in a bike club. Y'all always wondered, what did he do the rest of the year? Well, I met him in Daytona Beach at Bike Fest. I could tell that story. He's super cool. Santa Claus is super cool. I just find this one to be real funny, but I'm sure that you could create, you talk about someone that's quirky, right? I really need a soda and my car isn't working, so I'm going to take my riding lawnmower down the street to the convenience store and get myself a soda. So this fella right here, he's definitely unique, and you could create him to be somebody's uncle, right? Your Uncle Jim. Uncle Jim that everybody just rolls their eyes and says, oh, he's here. Yes. What's his story? And there again is the main character in my life, the husband. I just think his face says so many things. The wrinkles in his face, the tattoos on his skin, the gray in his hair. All very unique identifiers that make him the character that he is. You have to build a character so that your reader can see them. Now, for me, what has built characters? So here's a few faces that have become characters in my novels. So in the top right, I'm looking at it, it's in the right. So I feel like if you're looking at it, it's in the right as well, is the older lady with the cigar. I stumbled across her picture one day on the internet. I was looking for colorful Hispanic photos to use in a project that I was doing. And I came across her picture and I fell in love with this old woman. Like, I want to be her. Like, she's part of the inspiration for me starting to dress however the heck I want. Like, I wear what makes me happy. And if that involves rhinestones and flowers in my hair, that's what I'm doing. And cowboy boots every day. Heck to the yes. I'm wearing some now with camouflage plants and a rhinestone t-shirt. And you know what? I'm happy. I have rhinestones on my glasses because I like it. So I love her picture. I built Adeline, who is one of the main characters in The Kiss in the Rain. Adeline is built off of this woman who I discovered with some internet research was actually named Graciela, and she lived in Havana, Cuba, and would charge tourists $1 to take her picture. So if you go online and you just type in old woman cigar, you're going to find a ton of pictures of her. It's super fun. So anyway, I want to be like Graciela, but I made her an old German woman named Adeline in my book, but my descriptions of Adeline, they're Graciela. So, and then in my book, For Love of Words, the gentleman in the middle, this is Jeremy Irons, the actor. And my character, Henry, is modeled completely straight after Jeremy Irons. I happen to think that he's a very handsome older man, and I like the way he dresses. And he was the perfect fit for the character that I had in mind. And so Henry is crafted upon Jeremy Irons. Then, in my book, The American Queen, we've got the two beautiful women on the left, right? So in my book, The American Queen, I love politics. I love to watch politics. I love body language. I like to study body language. There were many times when I was seeing, while Obama was president, while I was seeing Michelle in the background, she did not look like she had on a real smile, and it bothered me. Like, it looked like a fake smile. Now, this one here is not that smile, but I tried to find one in pictures like that, but most any pictures I found of her were more recent, and I didn't go into a big look. I just found something I could throw in the PowerPoint. But so I developed this idea that that's got to be like the worst position in the world, to be the wife of the president of the United States, because you talk about constant stress. I mean, your husband's the most loved and the most hated person in the entire world. He's always working, right? And you will never have privacy again for the rest of your life. So I started playing with this idea. What if the First Lady of the United States fakes her death and then tries to live a normal life? So that's what happens in my book, The American Queen. My character's name is Alice Hatcher. She's a cross between Michelle Obama and Princess Diana, because I grew up loving Princess Diana. I'm a diehard. I love Princess Diana. I mean, it was a great thing when I was a little girl and she got married. She was just a regular commoner, well, a rich commoner, and she got to marry a prince, right? It was this amazing fairy tale story. So I love her. And so I combined them and created a character who fakes her own death, like Juliet, right? And then she tries to live a new life, but someone figures out that she's not dead and tries to find her. And she's like running for her life. So, and then the bottom right corner, this, you can see, obviously that's me. So that would be myself and my kind of sort of boyfriend from my senior year of high school, and my real good friend, and then his younger brother. So in the book A Kiss in the Rain, the title actually stems from a situation that occurred between me and that young man right there. Senior year of high school, we're in the parking lot at school. It wasn't actually raining. I added the rain, but we're in the parking lot after school. He's got his truck and I'm there with my car. No, I had my truck at the time. I had the truck like the one in the other picture. So, or did I have my car yet? I don't remember. It doesn't matter. But anyway, so we're parked there and I'm in the car or truck. I think I was in the truck. Was I in the truck? I was in the truck. Maybe I was driving my dad's truck. It doesn't matter. So I'm in the vehicle and he's standing outside. We're talking over the window, and just in the middle of listening to him talk, I was like, would you kiss me? And he's like, get out of the truck. And so I did, and he just like gets me right up against the truck and just lays it on me. It was the greatest moment ever. Like, it was so fun. And so then for the rest of senior year, we were like makeout buddies, right? Never were exactly boyfriend, girlfriend, just makeout buddies and best friends. It was crazy. So probably a fairly decent basis for a relationship, but whatever. So it just kind of started like that. But that moment with him then became a catalyst for the book that stars the woman at the top. So different ideas can mesh together and become an altogether new living, breathing idea. So recapping, introducing characters. This needs to happen. You need to introduce them in the first quarter of the book. You want to get under their skin, get into who they are. Be making notes about your characters, build them, flesh them out. The size of the cast, make sure that you're avoiding reader confusion. Ask yourself, does the character have a purpose? They have to have a purpose, and keep their details straight, making them interesting. I know this is a lot, but we're going to practice. So we're going to gather some character fodder this week. That's going to be our assignment. We're going to gather character fodder. So here is the assignment. From No Plot, No Problem on page 119, the assignment is called Tell Me About Your Uncle. Now, on the right side of your screen, that's my actual uncle when he was a young man. He's a very unique individual. But we're going to be fleshing out characters through random conversations with friends and strangers. So, as any psychologist will tell you, truth is definitely stranger than fiction. If you're having trouble coming up with interesting attributes and histories for your characters, tap into the millions of hilarious, wonderful characters already in orbit around you. Grab your notebook, call a friend, and ask them to tell you everything they know about their strangest relative. Even some that's four, the most mundane stories. I had an uncle who wore flannel shirts every day of his life. He used to sneak bologna into the zoo to throw to the gibbons because he always thought they looked so skinny. Will often spark ideas about a potential character and story. This tactic also works well with strangers, especially cute ones who will no doubt be impressed by your crazy novel project. So the next time you're in line at the grocery store, someone catches your eye, take out your pen and go harvest their family. You'll net a tremendous haul of anecdotes that you can steal for your story, and they'll come away telling their friends about the hot writer they met in the checkout line. Okay, that's the text from No Plot, No Problem that leads us to this assignment. So what we're going to do, and this, you'll of course post all of this in your discussion thread. Ask 5 people in your world outside of class to tell you about their strangest relative. Take notes and share those notes here, but don't share the person's name who is being described. Number these 1 through 5. Then I want you to comment on at least 4 classmates' posts. State which of the characters you'd find most interesting and suggest a name for one or more of their described individuals' characters. Doesn't that sound like fun? So 5 people, ask them to describe their strangest relative, take notes, and then share those notes in your discussion thread post. And then you're going to go in and you're going to read other people's posts, and you're going to make comments on which of those characters you find the most interesting and suggest a name for one or all of them. I love this. I'm going to participate too because I think it's hilarious. So keep in mind, in all things writing, the story needs to touch the reader in some way emotionally. So always consider your audience. Who will they find interesting? What about that person is most interesting potentially to your reader? So that brings us to the end of this. I'm going to stop the screen share. That was fun. I really enjoyed that. I'm hoping that you will get a lot out of this little chat. And if you have any questions, like always, just text me and I'll be happy to answer them. And wow, we're already going into week 4. So I'm going to be thinking about a potential time where we could set up a Zoom chat where we could all get on together and talk and whatnot. It'd be kind of fun to, now that you've gotten to interact with each other a little bit on the discussion thread, to actually meet face to face on Zoom would be, I think, a fun thing to do. But I'll look at my schedule and see what I can come up with for that. Maybe we'll just have a birthday party for me on the 23rd, novel writing birthday party class, and meet on Zoom. I like that idea, actually. And then you'll all feel like you should have to join because it's my birthday and it's a present to me for you to join. Ooh, I like that idea. I'm going to work on that. All right, you guys, I hope that you have a wonderful week. Contact me with any questions, and yeah, be paying attention to people. Take notes about people. People watch constantly. You're a creator, you're a writer, you tell stories. Be constantly people watching, because people are weird. They're awesome. But do the assignment and let's enjoy it. All right, talk to you later.